Einen wunderschönen Mittwoch. Ich sitze hier auf einer schönen Wiese zwischen Halle 6 und 7, glaube ich. Wir waren gerade bei Ubisoft und durften For Honor spielen. Und dann habe ich hier gerade diesen netten jungen Mann hier getroffen. Das ist Jason. Er ist das kreative Gehirn, the creative mastermind behind oder hinter einem Spiel namens For Honor. Und ich habe dieses Spiel gerade eben zum ersten Mal spielen dürfen und ich bin jetzt schon verliebt. Und deswegen muss ich Jason ein paar Fragen stellen, die ihn hoffentlich nicht allzu sehr langweilen oder die hoffentlich nicht schon so oft gestellt worden sind. Jason, I just told my viewers I will ask you some questions and I hope they don't so boring. Or you didn't hear it for the, don't know, 10 times or something.
Well, I hope my answers are not boring for you too. So yeah.
No. After I saw,
happen. I can do it. It's possible.
After I saw this game,
Yeah.
I cannot imagine that the answers would be so boring or bad.
Let's find out.
Okay, first of all, because I don't know you so well,
Okay.
I have to admit it. But first of all, I wanted to know what was your sign, what was your inspiration, what was the moment when you thought by yourself, okay, I will create video games.
Video games in general, or this one in
Video
particular?
games in general.
Wow. Actually, it's very, very clear because my early studies were in theater and in film, and I wanted to be in entertainment. I knew I wanted to do something right in entertainment, but my father was a programmer, and so I had been learning technology my whole life, right? And I'd been playing games from the earliest, the very, very, very first games. But I didn't even know that you could make games as a job. It didn't even occur to me this was in the Stone Age, right? It was just in the ancient era. And so I was looking for a job and I was frustrated and I'm like looking for work, and my uncle, he's having lunch with me and he says, oh, I know someone he runs a studio. They're making some video game. And I'm like, click. What? Like they make video games, right? And my whole life turned, right? And that was it was about 20 years ago, so that was a long time ago. So that was it. It was a moment that I found out you could.
And your dad is still proud, or your dad is proud of you that you develop his skills in something else?
Yes, I think so. I mean, he passed away several years ago, but I mean, he loved we would play text adventures together, right? He would bring me to his. Video games was something that he sort of taught me and brought me into long before there was even graphics, right? It was just that. So when I started doing that, I was so happy and so impressed, right? So I certainly hope so.
Cool. Then, rest in peace.
Oh, thank you.
And what was the key moment for Honor? What was the thinking behind? Okay, I want to make a video game about guys with swords and real close combat.
Yeah.
And what was this? Where comes this inspiration?
So I've been fascinated by martial combat my whole life. I'm that kind of guy, right? It's always been. I've been, when I would do the real fights and go and train and do that. And it was a very specific moment actually on this game. I took a course. It was about 12 years ago. I took a course. Yeah, it's been a long time. This one has been working for a long time. I took a course in German longsword, which is this new rediscovered form of sword fighting that came from the Middle Ages, right? And I was taking a class in this in San Francisco. And I was also at the time designing games and thinking about games. And so I was walking home one day, and I was so impressed by how beautiful the system was of the real martial combat, but also how simple it was. And so I started to think, well, could we take this system and apply it to the controller, right? To sort of make that work in the controller. And I was walking down the sidewalk there by the bay, and I quickly turned into that crazy guy who's like pretending he has a controller in his hand. I'm like, wait, and then we could do this, and then we right. And I got really excited about it because I thought it was a great idea. It was a new way to lay out the controller that would bring the emotions of battle, of war, right, of this fighting style, right?
Rage.
Yeah, rage. It would bring it closer. It would make it more immersive and violent instead of it being in your head and about memorization. So then I started pitching the game to anyone who would listen, And for a long time, it was no, until I pitched at Ubisoft Montreal to Yannis Smollett, the general manager there, and he said, instead of saying no, he said, you know what? I have a team that I would like you to pitch this to, and he introduced me to the people the lovely team that I am now a part of, and we started making the game. They said yes, and then we started making the game.
And how long is this ago?
That we met, it was several years ago. More than 3 years ago. I don't remember the exact date, but it's been several years in development now.
So you tried 9 years to get For Honor or every other title you imagined to get realized.
Yes, yeah, and I was desperate. I would have these conversations where I'm like, you don't understand. I want to play this game. Like, there's no game that feels the way I feel when I have a sword and a shield and and I'm doing this. I don't feel that way when I play these video games. This would work, please, right? And they're like, no, it won't work. No one wants to play that. It's right?
They all wanted guns.
Yeah, well, this was this is before the Lord of the Rings was happening, right? It was or during that period of time, and before Game of Thrones, and before we had this this idea was so sort of geeky way back in the day, right? It's a different world now. The world has changed, right? The whole idea is almost acceptable, right? And so it's exciting. It's exciting that we're finally here. But it was 9 years.
That's a good point. Do you think that with all the technical gimmicks and with all the technique we already have and smartphones and cyber reality, virtual reality is coming up, do you think we have a need for something like medieval like For Honor and something medieval like Game of Thrones? And do you think the need for something like archaic, I would say,
well,
brings up some games like For Honor?
I would happily use that excuse. Yes, I would absolutely. Yes, no question. You know what? I've felt the need for this my entire life. So it's exciting that whatever the reason is, that it is becoming more interesting. Right? I am happy that it's happening because it's a topic that I think is amazing. I think there's a warrior inside almost everybody. Right? And the game is asked the question, knight, Viking, or samurai, right? Which you are, you've I think you picked samurai for the shirt, so I assume there's a samurai in here. Yes, awesome. I'm a knight, right? So,
I like the culture. So
it's beautiful. It's fantastic. So and this game is about letting that warrior come out, right? In a way that's more personal, right? The gun games are super fun, right? But it's impersonal. You're fighting someone over there, right? With this game, it's you and me, and we find out which of us is the better fighter, and that's, I think, an amazing form of conflict, right? I've always loved it. So whatever the reasons, I welcome it.
And was it clear from the beginning that you will combine knights, Vikings, and samurais, or was it something which came in development that you thought, oh, maybe we should use another faction, or we should use another fighter?
Yeah, it was during development. That one came later. It was funny because we would talk about like what makes this exciting and why is it so interesting, and I would always point to this like online debate, right? That I had been having on the schoolyard since I was a kid, right? About who would win in a fight, right? A samurai or a knight, right? You always have this question, right? And we started asking ourselves, we would play around with that and just like as a joke, we're making this game where we can answer that. And then that turned into this realization that if I started to ask people, hey, are you a knight or Viking or a samurai? That everybody has an answer to that question, that everyone kind of knows, at least in the West. This seems to be our three great archetypes, right? The three great legacies of warriors, right? So everybody has a favorite, right? And it's not a question about what skin you like, right? What's your favorite brand, right? And that, it's more a question, like you said, it's like, what do you value, right? You value their culture and that samurai culture, right? It's about honor and discipline,
like
and exactly like this. And so the Vikings are about freedom and expression and enthusiasm, living your life to the fullest, right, in the moment, right? And then the people who choose knights, it's always defense, and protecting the weak and sort of those noble, purposes and that sort of stuff. So it's a question about what kind of warrior would you like to be, right?
And in all the pop culture and stuff in games, video games, movies, music, what is your favorite warrior of all time?
Oh wow, favorite warrior of all time. That's crazy. That's a crazy question. So
You always wanted to be yourself a warrior, so
Yeah.
you must have an idol or something like this.
it's gonna have to be Conan. I have to go with Conan.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of your women.
That film, you know, was new when I was a kid, right? Because I'm super old, and it just so captured my imagination. And I was always a huge fan of the Arthurian legends, right, and Lancelot and those guys. But I mean, the viscerality of that, of that world, of Conan's world, and the way that they fought, right? It's this balance between the animal and the human, right? And I think it's wonderful, right?
One question about I have to say about the brutality in the game.
Yeah.
Was it also for you no point of discussion that this game is an R-rated game? Is it a game for adults?
You know what? I think that the game is about this very visceral experience, right? About putting a sword in your hand and going after that other person's body. And there's a certain expectation about how we will communicate that. But it's like you say, it's a game for adults, right? This is not a game that we're building for that. It's it'll be probably Peggy 18 or 16, we'll see. But we're making it that way. The violence is not the point, though, right? It's not we're not on the battlefield to celebrate the violence that is being done because it's horrible. It's a dark fact, right? That happens when you swing a piece of metal at somebody. But if it wasn't there, then the battle means less, right? It's not as meaningful if you're fighting someone who doesn't exist, who isn't really real, right? So we don't want to we're not building a game that is going to celebrate that violence, that is going to focus on that. You see some violence in the game right now, right? But it's not the point, right? The point is to put the weapon in your hand and make you feel like a warrior, and then to understand that you're on a battlefield where death matters, right? Where what you're fighting over exists and is real in some way.
And like the strength of combat.
Yeah, the strength of, you want to feel the power, you want to feel the swing, right? We have done all of this work to communicate in the animation system and our game design system to make you feel like you're really swinging that weapon and that impact, right? That blow, bam, getting that in there. And if that there's a certain amount of expectation you have that it has an effect on the body. So we feel that there's an obligation almost to include some of that, which means it's an adult game, right? But it's also it was never the point, and I've been very clear with with our team, and we've been very clear from the beginning that it was not. We're not here to overdo that, right? We're not here to make that something that we're taking pleasure from, right? It's just the natural consequence.
Okay, and now my final question.
Yeah.
How many inside jokes, for example, hidden penises, are inside the game?
You know what? Honestly, I have no idea, because the team is just, they are the ones that build the game, and they're the ones that check in all of that stuff, right? As a creative director, my job is really just to talk and to sort of communicate where we're going, right? I don't do actual work, right? I do the sort of the guiding part, right? So I hope there's a lot. I hope there's a lot of those in there, yeah? But you just never know.
And at least a Conan reference.
Well, I mean, the whole game is a Conan reference, right? It's like, and all of those are sort of classical warriors, right? We want to put you on that battlefield, right? And let you live that out because we think it's awesome. So, good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jason. Thank you
Those
very
were not boring questions.
Cool.
Those are good questions.
Then now I'm sad. Glad. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ja, vielen Dank. Wir sehen uns später. Ich quatsche jetzt hier noch eine Runde mit ihm privat und dann hoffentlich sehen wir uns auf dem Schlachtfeld bei For Honor. Tschüss.